Bendy and the Dark Arrival has finally arrived on Switch, and this is a game I've been so excited for. The original had such a unique atmosphere, and I couldn't wait to finally check out this sequel. Sadly though, I'm here to report some bad news. And if you're thinking about picking this one up on Switch, I'd strongly suggest you watch this video through before you hit that download button. What I will say though is, this isn't your standard frame rate issue. And every frame rate video out there on this game right now reporting 30 FPS, I will say ignore them. They're not wrong, but they're not showing the real problem. Because what's happening here isn't being picked up in those tests. And it makes a massive difference to how this game actually plays. Now, if this video does help you out today, do me a favor, hit subscribe. It helps a smaller channel like mine a huge amount. And yeah, let's get into it. So quickly, first off, the footage you're seeing here is captured on Switch 2, but I also tested it on the original Switch, and yes, the issue I'm about to show you happens there too. The same exact behavior. But before we do get into the nitty-gritty performance stuff, let me just explain what this game actually is. So Bendy and the Dark Arrival is the sequel to Bendy and the Ink Machine, a first-person horror adventure set in a twisted, cartoon-inspired world, think kind of 1930s-esque. You'll be exploring a creepy old animation studio, solving puzzles, collecting items, and occasionally getting hunted or fighting with inky monstrosities. It's got a unique art style, a surprisingly layered story, and plenty of atmosphere. Now so far, I'm about halfway through the game on Switch. I'm maybe 50% in, and I've been having a blast with it honestly. The vibe is great, the puzzles are fun, and the environment's just dripping with personality. It is simply fun. It also looks, honestly, lovely. On the original Switch, it holds together visually way better than I expected. And on Switch 2, with that extra resolution bump, the art style just really pops. The bold lines, the shadow work, that slightly smeared vintage look, it just all clicks. The difference between those systems isn't dramatic, of course, there's no official upgrade, but I do think it's enough. So what could possibly be wrong? I mean, as you can probably tell, I like the narrative, I like the world, it looks good, and generally I'm a big fan of this universe. It's even been on my must-play list for a long time. Well, it's the frame rate. Sort of. I know, weird statement, but stay with me here. The moment the game booted up, I noticed something felt off, like a low frame rate kind of off, really choppy. And I picked up on it immediately, especially because there's also an input lag. But here's the weird part. When I ran it through the analysis tools, the ones you always see on this channel, it showed a pretty much locked 30 frames per second. So it looked fine on paper, but that definitely didn't line up with what I was actually feeling while playing. And this is where things get interesting. So I ended up spending the next couple of hours trying to figure it out. In fact, shout out to Luke over at Switch Stars. Definitely check out his channel if you haven't already. He actually double checked it on his side to make sure I wasn't going crazy, and he got the exact same result. It feels off, but all his readings came back the same, a solid 30. So we dug deeper, and here's where things start to get weird. Now on the surface, the game runs at 30 frames per second. The world animates at 30, the weapon in your hand, that moves at 30. Everything seems fine. It's when you're moving the character, that's where things start to break. What seems to be going on here is a disconnect between two parts of the engine, the rendering and the character movement. The game is rendering at 30 FPS, yes, but the movement logic itself is updating at something lower, like 25 frames per second or even less. So what you end up with is this weird stuttering effect, where your character's movement freezes for a frame every few moments. Even though your weapon keeps animating and the environment moves at 30, it just leads to it feeling way off. Again though, it's not your typical frame rate drop. It's more like part of the game is running behind the rest, like something in the background is lagging just enough to throw everything out of sync. And I'll be honest, I don't usually suffer from motion sickness in games at all. I can deal with blurry visuals, low resolution, bad ports, variable frame rates, all of it, and I've played some real stinkers. But this one just got me. It feels weird. It reads again like a classic low frame rate issue, but the more you play it, the more your brain clearly starts picking up on that mismatch. And after about 15 minutes of walking around in Bendy, The opening is particularly rough, by the way. Yeah, I was not feeling good. I was like stomach turning. But all of this said, let me show you an example on screen. So what I've done here, I've slowed the footage down to 20% speed. It's not thrilling to watch. I'm just walking in a straight line, but I've very purposely chosen this scene. So the first time through, watch the fan in the background. It's moving smoothly, frame by frame. Now look at the weapon in my hand, also animating fine. But then on your third time, and I'm going to loop this a few times so you can really see it, watch my actual character movement. It just halts every few frames while the rest of the scene keeps on moving. So when I do freeze, look to that fan and you'll notice that it's still spinning. So this is what I was feeling from the moment the game started. Everything says 30 FPS, and technically, again, that is true. Hence I said earlier in the video, it's not a mistake these readings are coming out that way. It just doesn't play like 30 FPS because I went back and counted the actual animation frames, frame by frame, during movement. In this scene, as well as a fair few others, to make sure it was consistent throughout, and it was. But what I found was that my movement was actually only around 25 frames per second on average. But remember, again, the game itself and the world is running at 30 FPS. So what is actually going on here? And normally when we talk about dropped frames, we're talking about the game struggling to render, like it's delivering fewer frames than expected, or skipping frames altogether. That's what causes the usual stutter or judder, and that's what makes our frame rate analysis go either up or, of course, down. But here, the dropped updates are happening in just one part of the system, your character's movement logic. The game's engine is rendering the world and weapon at 30, but your position and velocity, your actual movement, are updating inconsistently. It's like the part of the engine that tells the game where your character is supposed to be is falling out of sync with the rest. And that's what creates that awful kind of jittery feeling, even though, again, technically, the game actually isn't dropping frames. Weird, I know. So yeah, this is a really difficult one to explain. I know I've been pretty repetitive, but I just kind of want to drill the concept home. But basically, it's not that the whole game is running slow, it's that just the movement part is out of sync, and that tiny misalignment isn't enough to completely ruin how it feels to play. It feels like a horrible frame rate, it made me feel sick, and yeah, basically, I guess, fun times. So basically, all of this is to say you might want to save that cache for now, let them clean it up, because if you jump in right now, you're going to feel like the frame rate is way off. In the process as well, if you're like me, you might feel a little sick too. And yeah, I just really wanted to get this information out there. Hopefully it's an easy fix and we see a patch soon, because as it stands, it's going to be tough to recommend. I wouldn't say do patch it, however, I'll be jumping straight back in and wrapping it up because, like I said, the story so far is great. It looks great. The enemies are creepier. It's definitely scarier than the first, hands down. And I can't wait to see where it goes. I just prefer to do that without a sick bag in hand and that constant feeling that I'm battling against the frame rate. It just breaks that immersion into what is an incredible universe. So yeah, Bendy, I can't wait to visit the studio properly, but for now, I'm holding off. Soon though, hopefully, let's just get an update out so I can give this the glowing review it deserves. And that's the video. If you enjoyed it, if it did you a favor, please subscribe. It helps out the channel a huge amount, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers all.